I'm Ariana Grande.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Erivo.
And you're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Visit bpn.fm to discover more.
Hi, I'm Aaron Bartz. Welcome to the Theater Podcast with Alan Seals.
Hey everyone, welcome back to an all-new episode of the Theater Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Seals, and our guest for this episode is Aaron Bartz, who is part of our special Harry Potter and the Cursed Child takeover here on the podcast. There's only a few episodes left. Make sure you rewind a little bit to get all of them and check out the whole podcast takeover. I couldn't be more thrilled to have him on the podcast. He's an actor with serious classical chops. He's got an MFA from Yale, countless regional credits, and a background in Shakespeare that helped pave the way for this Broadway debut in Harry Potter. And it's a role across the globe that fans recognize instantly. Of course, Draco Malfoy. But what makes this conversation extra special is the way that Aaron opens up about his own fatherhood on stage and off, and how portraying an adult Draco has kind of given him a fresh perspective on his own legacy and I guess sort of like the redemption path that this character goes on. It's actually really cool. But we dive into the physical and technical demands of Cursed Child, from fire to flight illusions that everybody seems to enjoy. It's a fascinating look at the magic behind the magic, and how he balances it all while commuting in from Connecticut and raising 2 kids. Don't forget to follow me on social media and go to Patreon or Spotify and check out the video version of this episode. Special thanks to WelcomeToTimesSquare.com, the billboard where you can be a star for a day. And everybody, now please enjoy this episode with Aaron Bartz.
Here you go. 1, 2, 3.
Today's guest is an actor known for his work in both classical and contemporary theater. With an MFA from the Yale School of Drama, his stage career has taken him from regional productions to television and now to Broadway, where he brings depth and complexity to the role of Draco Malfoy in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which is also his Broadway debut. Aaron Bartz, welcome to the Theater Podcast.
Thank you so much, Alan. Thanks for having me.
We were just talking right before we started recording about, I took my son to prep for this interview, came to see the show, took my 10-year-old, and he's seen tons of musicals, but this is the first straight play I've taken him to see, I think, ever? Yeah, actually. And now it's his number 1.
Yeah.
Like, just trumped everything else.
Yeah. Well, it's rare. I mean, it's rare to have a straight play that's also a spectacle. And because oftentimes when it's a big, fun show, it's a musical.
Yeah.
Because of course it is. But with our show, we don't need to sing. We just do magic instead. So you get all the big spectacle without the singing. So it's a kind of a unique flavor. But also, you said that his favorite show before this was & Juliet.
Yes.
So that, I mean, it's like those satisfy very different cravings, I think. So I think they could co-occupy his number 1 spot.
Right.
And not compete with each other, really.
I get that. And I would agree with that. All right, I'm going to go back and I will posit to him. Is that how did I use that word right?
Yeah.
I will posit to him that he should equally have 2 buckets and one is the other. Okay. Yes. Do you get that a lot from kids and even adults that come see the show? Because this is a property that is just known around the world as this behemoth of an IP.
Yeah, absolutely. And because our show is so well known, we get a lot of first-time theater goers, which is really cool. And it's like it's a lot of families' kind of gateway to theater, because they're aware of Harry Potter. Most of them have seen the films or read the books, and then they get a chance to take a family trip. And what are we going to see? Oh, there's this show, and everyone in the family can have a good time. And so many times at stage door, we'll come out and they'll say, "This is my first play ever. This is amazing. This is my first Broadway show ever." And so we get a lot of families coming in that way, which is just a really cool feeling.
Well, for you making now your Broadway debut, having made your Broadway debut in this show, and like I said, you've done TV and you've done regional productions all over the place, but like this is a workout, I feel like, because especially you're on stage so much, and the illusions don't look easy. Illusions, magics, tricks. What's the word? What's the proper
we say
word?
illusions.
Okay.
I think it's the illusions department. So we'll go with illusions.
The ID.
Yeah, the ID. Yes. And the Ministry of Magic.
Right,
they work
right.
together.
Wait, what is from Severance?
Macro data refinement.
No. What is Bert? Chris Walken. What's he in charge of? The operations. It's not.
Oh, I don't remember.
Design and something or other. Anyway, yeah. So okay. Anyway, so the illusions department, the ID. But yeah, you guys are. I mean, I'm sure you're sworn to secrecy for all sorts of stuff. Like, what is the legal document that goes on top of your standard contract for this stuff?
Well, it's really strange because you're signing your contract and then an owl flies in and drops off this NDA. And then you have to sign it with a quill. You can't sign it with a normal pen.
Right. But go ahead.
Well, I was just back to what you were saying about the show. It is, even though it's not a musical, it is still an epic spectacle, like I said. And so there is not exactly what we'd call dancing, but there is movement and choreography. And like you're saying, with the illusions, everything is happening right now, right in front of you. There's no screens, no CGI. So it's all human powered stuff.
Right.
And so it is a lot. It's a lot on especially the ensemble and really the entire cast. But it's a big show, and doing it 8 times a week is an effort. And this show, it used to be 2 plays.
Yeah.
Before the pandemic. And it was a bit more luxurious. And then during the pandemic, they were somehow with the use of magic, able to edit this thing and cut it down to just a single performance without losing any of the magic, so to speak. So, but with that, I mean, all the big things that you see in the show were originally designed to be performed over 2 shows. So now doing them all in one show is a lot for us.
And you think about, I mean, what we're seeing as the audience, and all of you as the actors have to do this and go through everything, but then look at what we don't see, the crew and the state, all of the stagehands, all of the people in charge of the illusions, making sure that it has to go like clockwork, right? Like how many levels deep are there in levels of redundancy? So if like primary illusion A doesn't work, do you have how many backups?
Oh, many backups.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We call them contingencies.
Yeah.
So there are contingencies for each illusion. Anything that could potentially go, sideways has some kind of a what if scenario that we're ready for. And we rehearse those things too. So yeah. And that, I mean, speaking of rehearsal, that's the other unique thing about this show is almost the entire rehearsal process is spent doing things that you've never done before as an actor. It's, learning all the illusions, learning how to fly, learning how to deal with fire, be underwater for several minutes at a time. How do you have the illusion that you're, flying through the air or turning into somebody else? And so most of the time is spent learning how to do all these things that there should be no reason why you should know how to do any of them.
You mean you don't know how to turn into somebody else?
I try and I convince myself, but
no, that's cool. My son, 10-year-old, he's very logical and he's one of those kids that has never just like gone in a room and imagined everything. He's very just like, here's this, and like very practical. And he still can't figure out. He's like, how do they change into other people? That's fascinating. It's blowing my mind.
Yeah.
So
I think 10's probably the perfect age to come see it.
Yeah. He enjoyed it a lot.
She's just a little young. We haven't brought her yet for the full show. And we have a 1-year-old and a 7-year-old. So I don't think the 1-year-old's going to make it. But
no.
but my daughter will come back and see it. And I think, 9, 10 is about the right age for that, I think.
That's really cool. That's cool. So then before you got onto Broadway, before you did this, and I'm going to come back because I have so many questions about the show.
Yeah.
But like, where did you grow up? What got you into theater?
I grew up in Montana. I was born and raised in Great Falls, Montana, and went to school at the University of Montana for undergrad. And when I was in high school, in English class, our teacher, we were reading The Taming of the Shrew. And just for fun, he split us up into pairs and had everyone act out a scene from the play. And so I did this Kate and Petruchio scene. And afterward, he pulled me aside and he said, have you ever thought about drama or taking a theater class. And
You said,
and I was like, nah, never really thought about it. At that time I was playing football in school. And,
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was kind of a nerd still, but I wasn't into performing. And I thought, well, you know what, I'll see, So my junior year, I enrolled in drama 1 or whatever it is, in high school.
They had an actual drama class in high school?
Yeah, we
Wow,
had an actual drama
wow.
class. And also my English teacher was also the technical director of the drama program, which is why he had that connection. It was kind of like, oh, Aaron, maybe you should think about that. And so I took drama my junior year and then got an acting scholarship to the University of Montana, and it was off from there.
Really? Like just straight junior year to senior year getting a scholarship?
Yeah, just 2 years of high school.
Wow.
Which I actually thought, at first I didn't know. It was kind of like imposter syndrome, even though I didn't know what that was at the time, because so many people who get into it very, very young.
Yeah.
And, as children. And even though junior in high school is still very young, I felt like I was late to the game in a way, but I knew that I was ready to play still. So I was kind of extra motivated I felt like I needed to make up for some kind of lost time at this thing. So I really dove into it. All the other classes kind of became a little less important, and it was more about drama and what play are we working on, and then getting to go to the University of Montana, which was when I was in high school. We took a trip to the university, and so we saw the Montana Repertory Theater put on Death of a Salesman, and it was the first kind of pro theater I had seen, and I sat in the front row, and the entire performance, my mind was blown. I couldn't believe that there were people, because I'd only seen high schoolers act in plays at this point, but there were adults and kids and people acting together, and the production value was insane, and the costumes were just beautiful, and I was completely transported to this world. And when it was over, I knew at that moment, I was like, well, no matter what else happens, I'm coming to the University of Montana. I will work at the Montana Repertory Theater, and that is my goal. And so I knew even if I were to drop out of high school, I could still go to the University of Montana, right? Because of, whatever in-state, whatever it was, I didn't need to work too hard to get to that college. So it was all about getting to the University of Montana then, which I did. And it was such a gem of a program. I felt like it was like the best kept secret in actor training. We covered such a breadth of stuff at such a depth with professors who like really cared. And then they did a mid-program review where they would cut people halfway through the program.
So what happened to them? They just went to engineering, or
football? They had to. So some of them would change from a BFA track to a BA, or some would just straight up just completely shift to a new field altogether.
That's rough.
Which is rough. Especially your sophomore year of undergrad. All of a sudden you think you're on a path, and then someone says, actually, this may not be for you right now, and then you have to change. Yeah. So that's very stressful. But so that was a very stressful time around, they called it mid-program review. And but that went well. And then after I graduated, I got my current dream, my then dream job of working with the Montana Repertory Theater. I played the Sheriff Heck Tate in To Kill a Mockingbird, and we toured that thing around for 9 months around the nation. It was just the absolute best. To graduate undergrad and go right on the road for 9 months was insane, with some of my friends and then professional actors that they had brought in, to play the older roles. How did you
get cast in that though? Did you come to New York and audition, or send in a tape at that point?
No, it was because the Montana Repertory Theater has a relationship with the University of Montana, and so they audition graduating seniors for these touring productions, and they're non-equity actors, and so we were also part of the crew essentially as well. So we'd drive, the vans and trucks. We'd get to the city, we'd load in the set, and then we'd get to the hotel, change, whatever, come do the show. And then if it was our last show in the city, then we'd break down the set, load up the trucks, so it was crazy. It was crazy intense, but it was just so, so fun. And that play and that novel were so meaningful to me. And to be able to, the man who played Atticus is an actor named Michael McDonald, who lives in Oregon. And he was just incredible. I learned so much from Michael, and he had such integrity. And we had a number of these school performances. We called it the Dirty Bird, because it was like a 1 hour version of To Kill a Mockingbird, which is essentially like, here are all the characters and now the trial scene. But we did it at like 8 a.m, at these schools. And most of us were just like in really rough shape that early in the morning, like, oh, we're doing this Dirty Bird at, X high school today. But Michael McDonald showed up every day. And it didn't matter what time of day it was, what theater, if we were in a gymnasium or a 1,600 seat house, his performance was so moving and so compelling, and he was so dedicated that it made me so proud to be a part of the show and to see. We'd have talkbacks and audience members would stick around and just explain what this play meant to them, and it made me just so proud to be an actor. And I felt the real power of storytelling and sharing these experiences communally with people in a room, all breathing the same air and telling the story, and even sharing a story that everyone is familiar with. Still, there was just such a power to it that really, really stuck with me.
So then you're coming out of going to undergrad, you're going on this tour, and then so where does Yale? Why do you decide to keep going, and where does Yale come into it?
So after the tour, I moved to New York. Actually, I moved to New York right before the tour because we had a couple of months, I think, before we started. So I moved out and got an apartment and everything, and then immediately went on the road. And then once the tour was over, I came back to New York and essentially kind of chased Shakespeare auditions around the country for a while. I was just trying to do as much Shakespeare as I could because, again, Michael McDonald, who played Atticus, was a big Shakespeare guy. And after we were finishing Mockingbird, he was on his way to Texas to do a production of King Lear. And so I thought to myself, well, this is my next job. So I said, I must be a part of this production. I have to see Michael play King Lear. And if I'm going to see it, I might as well be in it. So I found the director, a man named William Groth, and I wrote him an email and I said, hi, I'm working with Michael McDonald right now on the road on To Kill a Mockingbird. And I know he's coming to see you to do King Lear. And I would like to please audition for the show. And this is, not my non-equity days before I had an agent or anything, and I'm advocating for myself, I'm self-submitting to all these stuff. And he wrote me back and he said, thank you, but no, we're hiring local Texas actors for this production. And I wrote back and I said, I understand that. I do not accept that answer. And in fact, I
said, literally say that?
I did. I said, William, Michael, I admire him so much. I'll do anything in this play. I said, I will literally do anything. I don't need a line.
Wow.
I just want to be in the show. And he thought, well, I don't know. We don't have a lot of money to pay, to fly people and house people. And I said, well, I'll tell you what. I had booked another, I was doing a production of the Scottish play off Broadway. I had booked right when I came back to the city. And I said, I'm doing this play. And he was in New York. And I said, come see the play. And so, and then we can talk, And so he came and saw the play. And I played Malcolm, and then we went for a walk, and we talked about the show, and then he took me to Central Park and auditioned me in Central Park for King Lear, and then offered me the job in Central Park.
What?
So, yeah. So then they work it all out. I finally convince him to hire me. And then, so they send me the offer, and they said, okay, Aaron, here's the deal, and we can pay you this much. And I said, okay, great, but can I have a little more money? Which, looking back, was just so crazy. But I had my New York apartment that I had to cover while I was gone, and it was something like they wanted to give me like $300 a week, and I was like, I just can't pay my rent. Like I was like, can I get like $50 more a week? And I could do this.
We're going to take a quick break for a few commercials. All right, everyone, welcome back to the episode.
And it was just so funny because looking back, I'm like, reaching out, I'm like, hire me. And they're like, no, well, please hire me. Come on, I want to be a part of this. No. Okay, well, come see me in this thing. Okay, finally. Okay, we'll hire you. Okay, can I have more money? It just seemed like such a ridiculous thing. But it all worked out. They found the money. We did it. And again, Michael McDonald was just incredible. And it was so great to do that. And then I came back to New York again, and I went to Texas Shakespeare Festival and worked with a couple of actors who were currently in grad school at NYU and Yale. And their work was just at a level that was, to me, very clearly above the people who hadn't trained at that level. Mm-hmm. And I'd been kind of playing with the idea, because I had been out of undergrad like 4 years at this point, doing regional theater and playing great roles, but I felt like I couldn't really get where I was going by myself anymore. And I needed like the next kind of thing.
You're still non-equity at this point?
Yeah, still non-equity. And so I worked with these two guys, and they were both like, hey, audition for the school. The grad school auditions were coming up. And they said, we'll recommend you. We'll put in the good word with the professors. And so I ended up applying to both of those schools and went to the final callback weekends. And then I got the offer for Yale. And that was it. At that point, that was a done deal for me. That no matter what else was coming, I was going to be going to Yale School of Drama.
And then did you ask Yale for lower tuition because you had to cover your rent? Like, okay, great.
Yeah, I said that, that's great. That's great. But I have this apartment in New York. It's on 90th and 1st, and it keeps getting more and more expensive. Oh, so funny. No, I actually got rid of the apartment. Yeah. And I moved to New Haven, where I still live there.
Today?
Yes. I actually live in Trumbull, Connecticut, but it's very close.
You just commute in for the shows?
I do, yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes. My wife, so we met at the University of Montana, and she runs a middle school in New Haven, a theater-based middle school that she designed.
Theater-based middle school?
Yes, it's called Atlas.
Good.
So she went to Harvard and designed this middle school all around theater and the theatrical process and how you can dive into different subjects, all based around what play you're doing. And then some people in New Haven got word of it and were like, this is a great idea. Let's open this and make it a thing. So we're still in New Haven.
That's
almost
crazy.
10 years later now.
So cool.
Yeah.
And she's inspiring like kids at a middle school level with that level of professionalism. I think that's good for her.
Yeah, it's
that's
really
amazing.
Cool. It's really cool.
We need so many people, young people getting into the arts right now.
Yeah.
For many, many reasons, but we won't get into because this isn't a political podcast.
Yeah.
But as I guess for you, let's see. So you're doing Shakespeare and you're going to Yale like you do and doing your thing. And then something like Harry Potter, does that fit into like when I think Shakespeare?
Yeah.
Like sonnets and just like obviously. I guess speak on that a little bit too, because like this play is hard. Like we were talking about at the very beginning, but is it hard in a different way or easier at all? Like at the end of doing 8 shows of Harry Potter, is it different from doing 8 shows of the Scottish play?
That's a really good question. I think it's more similar than you might think. I consider Shakespeare to be kind of like the Olympics of acting. I think if you can act a Shakespeare play, you can pretty much act anything. And I found that when I was looking at who had been cast in Harry Potter in London and who the current cast they were building, honestly, many of the actors have strong classical Shakespeare backgrounds. And I don't think that that's a coincidence. And I was actually doing another Shakespeare play. I was doing a production of now I'm spacing the name of it. It's Love's Labour's Lost. And I get the audition for Harry Potter. But we're in tech for Love's Labour's Lost. And I can't make the appointment. And so I write my agent. I said, well, I can't, we're in tech and I'm playing the lead and I can't get out of this right now. And they said, well, okay, well, we'll ask casting if they can reschedule. And they came back and they said, well, can you send a self-tape in? And I thought, oh man, this is Broadway, man. No one's going to watch this self-tape. I was like, okay, I'll do it. Of course, I'll do it, because my first thought was, one, this is Broadway, man. No one's going to watch the self-tape. But then my second thought was, you know what? I get to play Draco Malfoy for like 2 to 3 minutes. Like they want me to play Draco Malfoy. And they probably will watch it. And so, yeah, this is going to be great, actually. So we got my wife and I said, I need to do this self-tape. It needs to be in tonight. And my daughter's running around upstairs, making all this noise. And we're like, oh, get her to be a little quiet if we can. And this is only my second Broadway audition. And so we shoot the tape, send it in. And then they come back and they're like, oh, we loved it. They wanted to bring me in for a callback. Sure. And so at that point, then we started, the other play had finished. And so we started the callback audition process. And then I was cast as a swing in the play. So my first year when I joined the show, I was cast as a swing and I covered like 6 of the guys, including Draco.
Wow. Did you go on for
It was insane. I went on for all of them, all the time. And it was so fun. So in the years past when people have reached out to me and they've said, well, hey, I got this offer for Harry Potter, and I could do this ensemble or this swing thing, and what do you think? And I'm like, well, look, be a swing, because in our show, first of all, swings are on every night, regardless. You're on stage every night, and two, most nights you're on doing some track that you cover, and so it was an incredible variety of things that I got to do.
So you don't get bored.
No, it's not boring at all. It's so thrilling.
Yeah.
And in fact, there would be times where they'd say, okay, you're on for X tonight. And I'd get to the theater and they'd say, oh, actually, no, something happened. Now you're on for this other part. And it was so fun to be able to be like, yeah, no problem.
You seem like such a mellow guy. Like, yeah, no problem. I got that. But secretly in the back, are you like freaking out? Like, oh no, that's the track I know the least. What am I going to do?
No. I mean, I was freaking out in that I was so excited to be the guy to be able to save the day. To fly in and
I get that.
Be like, oh no, something happened. Aaron, we need you. Come in, play this thing last minute. And I was like, yeah, no problem. But I will say that every swing I kept one of those tiny little like 2-inch by 3-inch moleskin notebooks.
Yeah.
With little notes on it, and I'd keep it tucked in my sock. So I could, because so many of the tracks also are very similar. A couple of the tracks I covered were basically they did a lot of the same stuff. It was just mirror imaged. Stage right or stage left. So that got a little confusing, but to have the little cheat sheet was kind of all the peace of mind that I needed. And then they do such a good job of rehearsing everybody into the show. Like I said, most of the rehearsal is just learning all of the illusions and the movement and the counts to things. And so we're very well prepared.
Is there a rehearsal space that has the gear to help you rehearse the illusions, or do you have to come into the theater?
Yeah. We have we're fortunate to have a rehearsal studio in the theater. So upstairs on the third floor, we have a rehearsal studio.
I didn't know that.
Yes. And so we have a lot of gear there. We're also, depending on what it is, we're able to do it on stage, because some things have to be done on stage because for whatever reason, they need to happen there. It can't happen anywhere else. So they're very good at rehearsing everybody in. And even if there was something that we weren't quite certain of or didn't feel so comfortable of, if we just ask, then they make time to let us get our hands on it before the show or make sure that we're in a place where we feel good about it.
That's really interesting. It seems like the crew and the production staff too is very relaxed. Full stop. They're very relaxed in that they know that tomorrow's, marketing or tomorrow's ticket sales are not based on the performance from last week, right? Because Broadway right now, it's so hard. It's so hard to establish yourself if you're not a known IP, if you're not a known show or adapted from something. And so, I mean, again, like we said at the very beginning, this is a show that you don't have to speak English, you don't have to be American, you just know Harry Potter because it's been adapted in so many different ways. Yeah. And so, like these people just come, and the multiple times I've seen it, it's incredible. The different reactions I see, and the different types of people as I'm sitting next to people that are speaking different languages all around me. And it's just incredible. And I'm like, I don't even know if they know English, but they're still here watching this show that is being performed in British English. Yeah. Right?
Totally.
So it's really cool. It's really cool. Have you gotten any like really cool feedback from Stage Door or from fan mail or whatever that like stands out in that way?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said before, we get a lot of first-time theater goers. So that's a lot of the feedback that we get. But also playing like a well-known character like Draco or Harry or Hermione or any of these very famous characters, they in themselves have a fan base. Like Draco Malfoy has a fan base.
Really?
So like I will get fan mail, it's addressed to Aaron, but it's really for Draco, and particular characters, people really resonate with them for different reasons. And people really resonate with Draco and having kind of like a rough childhood and being kind of a bully and in these awful circumstances. And then kind of one of the nice things about our show for me is Draco it's often referred to as a redemption arc, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I exactly say that, but you get a chance to see more of who he really is inside him, and not just when he's, being manipulated by his parents or the Death Eaters or, all the negative influences in his life. But yes, we get a lot of people at Stage Door and writing to us all the time about how the show is so meaningful and also so spectacular and of course everyone asking us how we do all the things, but, and it's so fun to be on stage and hear the gasps and the oohs and the ahs and like you're saying, the crew and everyone is so sure and calm and steadfast in their ability, and I know it allows us such great freedom as actors to really with our imaginations to really invest in this magical world, because there's never a doubt in my mind that when I say this fake Latin incantation and swish and flick my wand, something awesome is going to happen. And I know it. And it does. And it makes me really feel like a wizard. And it's so fun.
Yeah, one of my favorite scenes, I don't think this is a spoiler. I mean, there's fire in the show.
Yeah.
And I was probably a good 75 to 100 feet back. I was like on the front row past that first, horizontal aisle. And I felt the heat.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
In the audience, like how are you on stage with that?
Oh, it's great. I
Really?
mean, we definitely feel the heat too. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess like the there's got to be flame retardants on the costumes. and
Yes,
stuff,
everything
but-
is treated.
Yeah. And you're just quietly smiling, can't give it. Yeah, that's crazy.
No, and I love that. It wasn't a conversation of how can we make it look like fire. It was just like, let's just put fire there.
And it's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fire.
It's a lot of
And it's
fire. It is
real and it's warm. Yeah, I enjoy this. I was surprised a second ago when you said, well, maybe not surprised, but I guess pleasantly surprised. We'll go with that, to say that Draco has his own fan base, and I mean, I guess it's like anything. Like when you get into a show, whether it's a musical or straight play or whatever, like you're identifying as a fan, you're identifying with the subject matter, with wherever it's set, with the message it's trying to say, or with a specific character. So I feel like there's probably a lot of adults now who grew up with Harry Potter, like we did, and see themselves in this kid who was like, he was supposed to be bad because that's what was expected of him, but the redemption part of it is that he can still grow up and care about his son. There's still like the fatherly, the parental side of this that speaks to so many of us, no matter who you are, where you're from. But then, the redemption and I guess stop me if you've heard this at your Yale training. You play the truth of the character.
Yeah.
Whether you're not setting out to be bad this morning, you're just playing their truth.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's like that thing you hear where no villain ever thinks they're the villain.
Right.
They think they're the hero of their own story.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people have such ownership over these characters. Like you're saying, the story means so much to people who have grown up with it. And these characters mean so much to people. But those of us that get to play the adult versions of these characters who are children in the novels and films are in such a sweet spot for actors, because we have such a rich backstory of these people when they were children.
Yeah.
Through all everything we know. But then in the meantime, there's 19 years of other life lived, because our story in the play picks up at the epilogue of the films and the books, almost 20 years after. So everyone's an adult sending their own kids to Hogwarts now. And so more life has been lived in the time that we don't see than in the time that we knew these characters from ages 9 to 18 or however it is they are. So there's an expectation, because people think they know who these characters are also, but there's also a freedom to come at it in your own way, because they are 20 years older. Mm-hmm. Whereas I feel people who were adults in the novels, like let's say Professor Snape, Professor McGonagall, those performances are so iconic by those actors that I feel that the actors in our show playing those roles, the audience looks at them with a little bit more of kind of a raised eyebrow, like, let's see this, Professor Snape, because they are 20 years older also, but they're adults still.
Yes.
And so they presumably, if not changed less, at least developed less, they've gotten a bit older, but they're essentially, people kind of expect them to be the same, where those of us who play the characters who are adults now and used to be children have a lot more freedom to kind of do our own thing with it.
Yeah, I can see that. I can totally see that. And there's a lot of freedom to, in, like you said, the 19 years between this, so much stuff has happened because Draco has his own family that he's trying to deal with, all the struggles that have come through raising a child and wife. I don't want to give spoilers away in that regard, but the way that you play it, I particularly enjoy, because when I was watching it, there was such a level of again, I go back to realism, but vulnerability, right? Because you're playing this like you're a guy who loves his wife, loves his kid, wants best for his family, and just people treat him kind of poorly because of a name.
Yeah.
Right? And like 19 years later, you may not be that same person anymore. Draco is not the same person.
Absolutely. Yeah, but and that's a question of the show too, like how do you escape that perception, or do you live up to it? Do you try to fight against it, or do you ignore it? And yeah, I always look at Draco as like the opposite of Harry. He's like the bizarro mirror image of Harry. So Harry is this person who has, he has this shred of darkness in him. He has literally a piece of Voldemort's soul, in him. This darkness and it comes out. We see it in the books and in the films. It comes out at these times. But every influence in his life is pushing him to the light. Dumbledore and everyone, he's the chosen one. They're bringing him to the light. And Draco is the opposite of that. So he, at his core, is a very good person. And with the wand chooses the wizard, Draco's wand core is a unicorn hair. And that is not, that's on purpose. He has a very pure, good heart in him. Yet every influence in his life is pushing him down to the dark, And so they're this kind of mirror image of each other. And it's interesting to see what kind of a parent both Harry and Draco become, where, Harry didn't have parents. Draco had parents, but they were arguably not great. At least his father was not great. And so how does that affect you? And I think it's surprising for people to see the type of dad that Harry is. And I think it's also surprising to see that what a good father Draco is. Yeah. And it's, someone who really was affected by their childhood, but wants to be better than they got, but also it's hard to, Draco's not like someone who's able to kind of show his love very easily.
Because he never had that modeled for him.
No, he didn't have it. No, he didn't have it modeled. And if it was ever shown, I'm sure it was smashed down. Yeah. And then there's the expectation of, there's always this shadow around him. And in the 2-part version, he used to talk about it, about how I'm always going to be Draco Malfoy, and there's no getting away from that. And people have an opinion of that and what that means. And I just have to own that,
We'll be right back after this. Hey there, welcome back to the episode. For you, Aaron, in real life, as a dad now of 2, how has, I was going to say, how has being Draco, the father Draco, influenced your real life? And then, but also 2-part question to this is because your kids are so far apart in 7 and 1, you said, right? Yeah. So like, you kind of get to restart the baby side, the baby parenting.
Yeah, that's true.
So I guess, so starting the first part of the question, how has being Draco influenced your real life? And then like, have you been doing things differently now with the newborn?
Yeah, well, I would say, fortunately, I have great parents, and I'm very close to them, and they're fantastic. So I am more lucky than Draco in that way. But approaching this play as a parent was a big shift for me, because one of the questions in the play is, what are you willing to do for someone you love, for a member of your family or a friend? How far are you willing to go for them? And from the very first moment in our play, that's what we see Draco doing. He's constantly facing his own discomfort, tolerating the things he doesn't want to do for the benefit of his son. In the very first moment you see him in the play, he's asking Harry Potter for a favor, which is the last person in the world that Draco would want to ask for something. But you know what? It's for his son, therefore he will do it. And that's recurring throughout. And I think that's just it was an interesting lesson to me, because I don't think Draco's parents treated him that way. And so what is it about him that decide, why didn't he, continue the cycle, so to speak? Was it Astoria? Was it his wife who was able to kind of see him for who he was and kind of get him out of that? But I'm so interested why Draco is such a, I think he's a fantastic dad. And I'm wondering how and why. It's so interesting to me.
My interpretation of that, if I were to be asked that question, my answer would be that he saw it modeled through Harry and Harry's friends. Because he was always giving Harry, Hermione, and Ron so much shit.
Mm-hmm.
Basically because I think he wanted to be like them.
Of course.
And then to see the parents in this family, and then even without actual parents, Harry lost his parents, but to see the way that his friends' parents took him in as family as well, I think that would be my answer to this. Of like why Draco was like, oh, I can do better. This can be better. I don't need to continue this cycle.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's very smart.
You can go with that. You can take
Yeah, I'll take that. Thank you.
Good. Do you talk with the other with your castmates about like kind of what it means to continue this legacy of continuing the show on? Because I mean, everybody still wants more movies, and there's still like this Harry Potter world at Universal that just is still going crazy, and like this is not a property that's going anywhere anytime soon. So do you ever sit down and you're like, guys, we are part of this massive legacy now?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's so exciting. And you have seen, because we did a recast at the end of the year. And so this is our year 6 cast, which is like 70% new people. It was a big new cast this year. Mm-hmm. And so we're kind of still in that honeymoon phase of, wow, we're at Hogwarts every day. And we have these audiences that are full and excited. And it is such a gift to be part of the wizarding world and set, a play that has a built-in global fan base. Mm-hmm. What a gift. And to have that on an open-ended Broadway run, it's a unicorn. It just doesn't happen. Yeah. It doesn't happen.
Yeah. Do you think you'll stick it around for a while?
I'm fortunate to be in a track where I'm not worried about aging out. I don't have to play a 12-year-old,
Fair. Yes.
Which is so nice. And I'm although my track is certainly physically demanding, it's not the hardest physical track in the show. So I kind of have a real sweet spot of being really sustainable in this. And so as long as they're happy to have me in it, I'm living the dream. It's the absolute best job.
And you commute from Connecticut, so you don't need to worry about New York rent.
Yeah, exactly.
You're good.
Yes.
You're good. If there was a little fun question, if there was one spell from the Harry Potter world you could use in real life, which one would you want to do?
Oh, that's so funny. Why have we've not had this discussion backstage? I feel
Really?
like this is a question we should all ask ourselves. So one spell, if I could have one spell in real life, it's not the most exciting maybe, but the first one that comes to mind as an exhausted parent is the Accio spell, where you can just bring anything to you without moving. I think that'd be it, Accio dirty diaper, and it could just fly to my hand.
Yeah.
So I could hold the baby. I could just summon stuff, use the force basically. That would be nice. Also, let's see if I could actually apparate and teleport. Or use the Flu network and travel through, chimneys and fireplaces.
Oh, yeah.
That would be great. If I could do that. That would probably be the one. Honestly, if I could apparate, that would be, I don't know if that technically counts as a spell. More like a magical ability maybe. But that's the one,
That's a good one.
It cut down on your commute.
Yeah. You could literally live halfway across the world.
Anywhere. Yeah.
And then you just get up and you're like, floop.
Yep.
Flu powder, and then here
I am.
You go from Japan to New York and back again. You live in Japan, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that'd be crazy cool.
I agree
with that. All right, so as we wind down here, we like to play Plot in 60 Seconds.
Yes.
And this is fun for straight actors because these are all musicals you get to choose from.
Okay.
So I have a list of 16 popular musicals, and you give me a number 1 through 16 that corresponds to a show on my list, and then you give me the plot in 60 seconds to that show.
Okay. Okay.
1 through 16. Which one is it?
8.
8 is
Right in the middle.
Rent. Go.
60 seconds remaining.
In the 1980s, there are a bunch of young folks, and they're feeling like they're not really happy with the way things are going, and they'd like to do things their own way. So they all gather
45
They all
seconds
gather
remaining.
their very few belongings and their guitar, and they they squat in some buildings and sing some songs to each other.
30 seconds remaining.
They also deepen their relationships and come to grips with their health and what it means to be human and mortal and ill. And they all decide that they don't want to have to pay rent. And they
15
all
seconds
live, if I'm not
remaining.
mistaken, they all live happily ever after.
Close enough.
I think that's pretty
Close enough. Close enough. We'll go with that. Yes. All right. So the 3 standard closing questions. Just the first one is simply what motivates you.
What motivates me is the power of storytelling. I think that storytelling is one of the most fundamental and important things to human culture. And particularly before we were able to write things down, I think that was the way that we shared information and passed down lessons. And I think it's so fundamental to what it means to be human, to tell stories.
All right. What advice would you give to your younger self and younger people listening now, starting out down a similar path?
My advice would be to get involved. If theater is what you want to do, then try and do it. If you have a school program, if you have a community theater program, if you just have a bunch of like-minded friends and a space where you can put on your own show, just try to get involved, because I think that's the way that you learn the most.
I like that. All right. Last question. Hardest one. If you could only see one show for the rest of your life, but you can see it as many times as you want, what would you see?
Oh, no. Okay. Oh, wow. One show for the rest of my life. I think, it's going to be a Shakespeare play. And I think it might be Hamlet.
All right.
I think I'm going to say Hamlet. There are a couple others that I want that are really close, but only one forever. I think it's going to be...
Any particular cast or actor?
No particular cast. Really just spending the rest of my life with that text. I think that could be fulfilling.
The Bard, he knows how to write. All right, so where can we find you online on social media? Do you play that game?
I'm on Instagram. You can find me at Aaron Bartz, and that's the only social media that I really care to use these days. But yeah, feel free to find me there or at the Lyric Theater on Broadway.
That's right across the street from where we are recording now at the Welcome to Times Square studio here on 43rd. I'm on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and Facebook. Find me. I don't know what I'm doing. I still, 6 years later, I don't know what I'm doing on social media. Leave a rating and a review wherever you're listening. It helps spread the word. Thanks to Jukebox the Ghost for the music you are hearing underneath us right now. And Aaron, thank you so much. This has been incredible.
Thank you, Alan. Thanks for having me.
Take a deep breath, make the world a little colorful.